Good afternoon, friends. I don't have anything to perform here. I will just say Thai Manne Vanakkam because I am coming from Muchiripattanam and I request Dr. Dayalan to start the session.
அனைவருக்கும் எனது இனிய வணக்கங்கள். In fact, my presentation is originally I was prepared in English, but I thought most of the scholars here they are well versed about Tamil. That's why I translated in Tamil. Now I think if anybody wants that should be in Tamil, bilingual, I can do that. Yeah, exactly. Because originally it was in English, but I thought most of the people are here. Most of the scholars they are in Tamil, so that's why I made it Tamil. And whenever you want any translation, I can do that. And basically, I remember because myself and Padmashri Airavata Mahadevan, few years before, we had a special session on Harappan in Tanjavur University. We are the two speakers, myself and Airavata Mahadevan, and I talked about the archaeological aspects of Harappan and Dravidian culture, whereas he talks about the linguistic culture. I still remember the days when we had a very long discussion with Padmashri Airavata Mahadevan sir, and it's a real great tribute I am making this presentation now. And actually, it is basically the Harappan elements in Tamil culture, an overview. Tamil தமிழ் கலாச்சாரத்தில் அரப்பன் கூறுகள் ஒரு கண்ணோட்டம், இதுதான் என்னுடைய தலைப்பு. அதாவது எப்படி இது முன்னாடி previously there are two speakers, they talked about the Harappan elements, Dr. Balasubramanian sir here, and then Balakrishna sir here, and then Vasant Shindeji, he had a talk with that, and it is a continuation of that one basically. And now I can talk only on the archaeological aspects basically, because I am not going to the linguistic basis. It's basically an archaeological basis, since they already had a discussion on the linguistic basis, and many scholars they have done that work. I talk basically on the archaeological aspect, how the facts which has been found both the sites, both the Harappan sites as well as South Indian sites, how it can be compared together, what is the element has been transferred from one end to other end. Before going to the Harappan element in the Tamil culture, I just briefly give what is the Harappan culture, because first we should understand how was the expansion of Harappan culture, how much it was in transaction with the various trade interaction with the various, contemporary societies, Neolithic society as well as the South, shall I talk in Tamil or English? English. Okay, fine. Okay. Actually, we all know, previously we call it as Indus civilization, because previously we thought it is only expanded in Indus area only. And after that, people find this is spread in the Saraswati Valley also. Then we call it as Indus Saraswati Valley. Now, after exploration for a long, more than 20-30 years, now we know that Harappan civilization expanded till Maharashtra. So it's a wide area. That's why now we call it the first site where it has found, that is Harappa. So that's why we call it Harappan site. And this is when compared to the contemporary civilization, like Egyptian civilization or Mesopotamian civilization, it is many times bigger than that one. Nearly 25 lakh square kilometer. That is the biggest area the culture was spread from Afghanistan to Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh to Sindh area, that is in the Pakistan. Such a wide area it has been expanded. One of the biggest civilization of that period. That's why the Harappa is one of the very important thing, and it is having a lot of interaction with the contemporary societies, civilizations. And as all know that it has spread from 5,000 years from present day to 4,000 years. This is a tentatively, of course, this plus or minus is there. But this is the time gap of the Harappan civilization, and many sites has been excavated. Actually, there are this all the yellow one. This all in Tamil Nadu. Sorry, in India, Kalibangan, Kuntasi, Banavasi, Rangpur, Rojdi, Trupar, Lothal, Bhagwanpura, Surkotada, Dolavira, Raki Kedi. These all the some of the sites which has been in India, whereas the other sites are in, in Pakistan. I had an opportunity to work at some of the sites here, particularly Dolavira and then Raki Kedi. These two sites, I had been one of the, along with Professor R.S. Bist, I had the privilege to work along with him. So I remember Professor Bist, he has taken a lot of pain in doing all the excavation, and we got thousands and thousands of antiquities there. Now I was talking about the expansion. You can see this is the expansion already. Morning there was a talk about that. I'm not going to detail of that one. This is the area where the Harappan civilization expanded. It has come up to the Bhadrava and then Daimabad. Daimabad is somewhere here. So previously it was thought only in this area, that is Indus area. Now after that it has spread to, it was by identifying the Saraswati region. Now it has come up to the Maharashtra, that is the Daimabad. Then Daimabad is somewhere here and Bhadrava. These are the sites. So this is the biggest area of the Harappan sites in the, and these are the some of the important sites you could see here. This is the Lothal, and then this is the Surkotada, Dolavira, and then we have the Kodiji, Mohenjo-daro, and then Harappa here, Trupar, Raki Kedi, Banahali, Mithadal. These are the important sites in Harappan civilization. So now coming to the excavation, as I already told, these are all the sites basically it has been excavated, and I have given the detail of the excavated sites here. And one is the Lothal, very important site, and Raki Kedi, one of the biggest sites, as Dr. Darshan Singh was talking. Because previously we thought Mohenjo-daro is one of the biggest sites. Now after identification of the Raki Kedi, it is one of the biggest sites in the world, Harappan site. Because unfortunately, maximum places has been occupied by the inhabitants. That's why we were not able to excavate. Okay. So, but unfortunately, the most of the site has been occupied by the inhabitants. That's why we were not able to take excavation. Only a certain portion has been excavated, in which we got very good evidence of the Harappan civilization. Of course, Dolavira is one of the unique sites where Dr. Bist was there and he did excavation. And one of the very unique sites when compared, even compared to the Mohenjo-daro Harappa, Dolavira is one of the important sites. And coming to the importance, actually, just I want to tell what are the importance of the Harappan site. Actually, these are the contribution of the Harappan site, Harappan civilization to the other, later civilization. One is a very systematic town planning. This is one of the unique features of the Harappan site. And also there's a fortification wall around the habitation. This is another important site. And then very extensive, meticulous, drainage system. That is another important thing of the Harappan civilization. Then granaries for storing the thing, because even now we are struggling how to store our food grains, whereas they, more than 5,000 years before, they are aware how the grains has to be preserved, and there are a lot of granary has been constructed in the Harappan period. Mainly the granaries are found at the Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and Lothal, and then standardization of the bricks. Basically 1:2:4, and the pre-Harappan 1:2:3. This is the standardization. So this is again, it shows how they are very familiar in the construction, building construction, because that standardization, it goes always with the construction purpose. So we have made a very systematic, standardization of bricks, and then meticulous measurements, even the weight measurements, liquid measurements, all the things they introduced. That's again a great contribution of the Harappan civilization to the later civilizations. And then we have different, geometric instruments, plumber, for actually to measure the height of the structure or the verticality of the structure. the plumb bob, and then various type of geometrical instrument. This was also introduced by the Harappan people. And then, of course, you are very well aware that seals, hundreds of seals, it has been introduced by the Harappan people. That's one of the great contributions, because we don't know what is the purpose of that. Maybe it's a trade purpose or royal purpose, whatever it may be. But it's again very important, and moreover, the sculptures or the repetition in the script, or the script, as well as the what do you say, that stamps. This is again very important. Then they had a lot of international, maritime, as well as internal trade. This is the one which I can say this is first Indian nation who had interaction with the foreign countries, particularly Southeast Asian, forest countries like Gulf region. Even they went beyond that. I think we have a lot of evidence, particularly Oman. We got a lot of evidence, Oman, Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, all the places we got Harappan elements, particularly the ceilings. Even in Oman, there is a place called Kothari, and the other places we got the boat remains of the Harappan boat remains. That also we got it. And then there is a dockyards for shipping dockyards. Actually, with Lothal we have, and Dholavira we have the dockyard. There are two major dockyards we found in the Harappan period, and also water management system. I think this is the one first in the world where they have managed how to store the water. How even a drop of water has been not wasted in the Harappan period. They made nearly 8 tanks all around the Dholavira to take out all the rainwater, then collected it. After making silt, it will go one after another. Finally, it will be collected one place, then they will use it. So once the rain comes, they will collect all the waters, and it will be used throughout year. So that was a very meticulous system we could see at Dholavira. Again, the water management system is one of the very best system. It is a model for even modern days now. And then there are a lot of burial types. This is again, and some of the burials which I will come to the point when I come to the megalithic and Neolithic side, how it has been transferred from the Neolithic to the later period. And then, of course, just we are talking about the script, because now we don't know whether it is pictography or ideography, or it is having any phonetic value. Phonetic value means that is sound, the only volume. Whether it is having a pictography or ideography or phonetic value, but still it is a great contribution of the Harappan civilization to the world. Then lot of sculptures made of stone, terracotta, copper. This is also one of the important contribution of the Harappan civilization, because this is all the important contribution of the Harappan civilization to the later civilizations. Now coming to the Harappan people, as morning there are a lot of discussion about that Harappan people had a maritime trade activities with the various countries in the Gulf region particularly, and for that we have a lot of evidence for that. And then as I told earlier, that Oman, Arab, Bahrain, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, all these places we got Harappan elements. Vice versa, even that area material, particularly Persian means the present Iran, the Persian seals has found at Lothal, and Persian material is found in Lothal, Dholavira, Raki Kedi, all the places. So it shows a busy, maritime transaction between the two regions, even 5,000 years before. Now this is the site. Actually, this is the Dholavira. This is Dholavira and Lothal. Lothal, the shipyard. From there, actually, these all the places. Actually, this was Gilmung. It's a very important site where we got the Harappan ship wreck, in which the remains of the ship of the Harappan ship we got it here. In addition to that, lot of Harappan seals we got it here, and then Woman and Russell Jean. These all the places we got. These all excavated sites in the Gulf region. Wherever we did excavation, they got Harappan material. Similarly, we got, as I told, even in the Indian continent also we got the Gulf region materials. And of course, just I'm making glimpses, because I'm not going detail of that because it's not my topic. I'm talking about the elements between the Harappan and Tamil civilization. but just a glimpse, I will just show some of the slides of the Harappan civilization. This is the Mohenjo-daro, this is Dholavira, this is Chitral area. And then this is, you see, the fortification having a very wide, entrances. There are all four sides, there are big entrances, which is having a like a big gateways, and there are chambers on either side for the gods. And then you can see wide roads, very meticulous roads. There is a typical drainage system. It has been on either side of the road. We can see the big street. On either side of the street, there is a houses, and there are multi-story houses. It's not a single-story houses. There are multi-story houses. It is having many rooms, and this is the channel, the drainage channel, going all along the street, and then it will be collected somewhere, and then it will be disposed further. So such a meticulous water management system, the drainage system, could see here. And you see how wide road, that too in a, cutting across the roads. And then this you could see the drainage system. Actually, this is the habitation area. From there, the water is collected and then go underground. Finally, it was disposed here. Finally, it goes further. So such was the meticulous system. We could see at Dholavira. Of course, not only Dholavira, in many sites we got this sort of systems. And then we have even the bathing rooms. You can see the bathing room. And then we can see from the water from the bathroom, it goes underground channel. From there, it is collected to the main channel. So you could see such a meticulous system we could see in the thing. And then, of course, this is the well, brick well. Sorry. This is the common bath or the tank in Mohenjo-daro for the common people bath. Bathing tank. And then this is the one what I was talking. There are 8 such tanks are found at Dholavira, like this, big tanks. And then the water is collected. The rainy time, all the water is collected from there, and then it will be filtered, and it goes to the other tank. Like that, there are 8 tanks are there all around. This is the tank. You can see the depth of this one. It's almost 15 to 20 feet depth. And this is the dockyard at Dholavira. Sorry, Lothal. And this is how it works. This is just a conjectural elevation, how it looks like originally. This was actually there is a this is the storage area that is called as a kidang for storing the material which has come from the ships. And this is the granary in Harappa. And of course, this is some of the sculpture representation. Particularly, this is one which found the bronze in Daimabad. There are nearly half a dozen bronze we got in Daimabad. All belong to the late Harappan period. One of the unique feature of the contemporary, bronze making technology. Of course, the terracotta figurine is Kalibangan. And then again, terracotta as well as bronze image from Kalibangan. Of course, the stone is Mohenjo-daro. Potteries, because it's already discussed, so I don't want to take more time on this. Seals. We got hundreds of such seals. Some of them, it's very unique. The sculpture representation, the seals. Not only the inscription is very valuable, but even the sculptures, the depiction in the seals is very unique. And then some of the ornaments, contemporary ornaments, terracotta figurines. These are some of the terracotta figurines found in the Harappan site. Typical the plow is found in Banahali. Now we know we now come to the real essence of the paper. Basically, we generally thought that Harappan civilization is urbanized civilization, but that is not the case, because only 5-6 major cities are there. Apart from that, there are nearly 2,000 sites has been discovered. Out of that, 1,300 sites are in India. Almost all these sites are rural sites only, except like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, Kalibangan, and then Raki Kedi, Dholavira, this sort of, except this sort of thing, many of the things, many of the Harappan sites have the rural areas. It is like a contemporary Neolithic culture. If you see the Neolithic culture sites and the Harappan rural culture sites, there is a lot of comparison. Actually, now I am taking that point basically, particularly even the Harappa, Dholavira, Raki Kedi, Banahali, Kalibangan, and then Rahman Peri, Kotiji, these are all urban site during the matured Harappan time. Whereas the pre-Harappan time, that was also a village community. From the village community, it has been developed as the urban center. So basically the Harappan people, because this is our conception, generally there is a belief that most of the Harappan people are urbanized civilization. It is not the case. Most of the, villages are there. Only few of them are the urban civilization. Now I will come to this. These are the map I will show you. This is the sea. Here we can see this is the Raki Kedi, and this is the Harappa, and this is Dholavira. You see, these all yellow, these all the village communities. There are first of these village communities. Out of 1,300 Harappan sites found in India, out of that nearly 80-85% are the village or rural community. Only these major cities are there: Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, then Raki Kedi, Dholavira, all the things. Apart from that, basically this one, and it has having lot of similarity with the contemporary Neolithic cultures elsewhere in India. So we know very well during the Harappan period, that was the scenario which found in the Gujarat and then the Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab region. Apart from that, the contemporary, the society in the elsewhere in India is the Neolithic site, because we have 5 regions which have been bifurcated into the 5 regions, the Neolithic site, like Assam, one site of thing, then Bihar, there's another type. And whereas South India, we have typical type of Neolithic culture, which is contemporary to the Harappan people. And Harappan people had lot of interaction with the thing, and I'll show you that what are the interactions which they had with the South Indian Neolithic people. This is the map. You can see all the important sites in the Neolithic period. Contemporary to the Harappan site. The Harappan site is somewhere here, and these are the another Neolithic site. There is another Neolithic group here, and this is Chalcolithic. That is the Chalcolithic culture, contemporary Chalcolithic culture of the Harappan people, and this is the Neolithic culture. So all these things, because the Harappan people not only had interaction with the maritime trade activities, even internal, that is the inland trade activities also had with this Neolithic people, and this actually gives a lot of interaction between the two society, the civilizations. And these are some of the sites that have been excavated in Tamil Nadu as well as South India. This is actually Payyamballi, somewhere here, and then Mudu, all these things, and then we have Kalupatti, Sanganapalli, Takakota, all these sites. All these sites are very important Neolithic sites. All this Neolithic site had a connection with the Harappan people. For that, we just find the information out of that. Particularly, this mainly there are 2-3 aspects which we could see the interaction between the Harappan people as well as the contemporary civilization in the South India. Basically, their settlement pattern, the Neolithic settlement pattern, and the rural area urban civilization, urban settlement in the Harappan region. Then the graffitis. There are similarity between the graffitis found in South India as well as the Harappan people. Then paintings. Then the pottery making technology. Again, there is similarity between the South India, particularly Tamil Nadu, then the Harappan people. Then the burial system, disposal of death. This burial system also, there are a lot of comparison between the Harappan as well as the South India. Then art, preparing of the terracotta objects, bronze object, metal, the other metal object. This again, we could see the similarities. So this is not just accidental. Definitely there must have some interaction, because somebody says it is just accidental because they might have made parallelly existed together. It is not the case, because some of the thing which clearly shows there is a strong connection between the Harappan people as well as the contemporary Neolithic people. Now I'll come to that one. I'll take one by one. Actually, this is the one, as just Dr. Basant Shinde was talking about, that there is a place called Bairana, where we got pit dwellings. People used to live in the pits. That is found in the Harappan side. Similar type of pit dwellings are found in the Payamballi in Tamil Nadu, where people used to live in the pits. They dug a pit in the earth, and then they make a big pits in the ground, and over the ground they make a thatches. So that evidence has found at Payamballi. It's almost contemporary to the Harappan pit dwellings. Similar way in Nagarjunakonda, Kandaluru, Veerapuram, Karapadu. These are all the in Andhra Pradesh, and then Toda, Kodalur. This is in the Karnataka. There also we got pit dwellings. Yes, we have. Yes. No, it is depends upon, because not uniform. Sometimes it is a circular. It's some of them is oval. The circle one, it's about 5 to 8 meter dia, and some of them it even goes 8 to 10 meters also. But whereas in the Kashmir region, it goes even 15 meters. Because in Kashmir also in the Neolithic period, they are also pit dwellings. So this pit dwelling is very common during the Neolithic period. Particularly this is found in the Harappan level as well as in the Neolithic level in South India, particularly Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, as well as in Kashmir. So this is certainly some sort of interaction between the two communities. Otherwise, it's not possible. See, this is the pit dwelling, how it looks like. It is a Neolithic, it is a conjectural way how it looks like. This is the pit dwelling, and they will have a kind of thatched roof over that with a wooden, because we got many post holes here on the top. So they used some sort of wooden superstructure, then they put some sort of thatches over that, because we got a series of post holes all along the periphery of the pit. Particularly in Nagarjuna we got it, even in the Payamballi we got it, and even in some other sites in Andhra Pradesh we got it, the same thing. Similar way we got it in Harappan region also. Now I'll come to this one, and even in the Burza home, as I told, Burza home, Kulfihar, Ganishpur, this all in Kashmir. There also we got the pit dwellings, and the Harappan period, particularly the Bairana, as I was talking. Actually, this is I go into the detail here. There are 230 centimeter to 440 centimeter. This is the small one, but the bigger one is more wider. And in Harappan sites, Bairana, they got these pit dwellings. Mithadal, they got a pit dwellings. Gunal, they got a pit dwellings. All is similar to the one which was found at Payamballi and Andhra Pradesh. This is the pit dwelling. Actually, just Dr. Shinde was also talking about that. He was just shown the picture, but he didn't explain to that. But this is the pit dwelling. Basically, they cut such a pit below the ground like that, and then there are series of post holes on the edges to have a thatches over that. So this is Harappan one. So this goes, there is some sort of a similarity between the contemporary Neolithic people as well as the Harappan people. Now coming to the other point, the burial. There are nearly 4 types of burials we found in the South India as well as the Harappan sites. One is the burial with memorial burial. There is one. One is extended burial, because the whole body is put in the burial trench, then they close it. That's one. Then excoronated burial, because they put the body outside then they collect the bones, and then they further they put it in the pits. This is another type of burial. All these burials we found in the Harappan period. Because what are the burials we found in the megalithic culture, Neolithic culture? All the types we found it in the Harappan period. Interestingly, even the orientation of the burials, particularly Kalibangan, the burial orientation is west or southwest, and even Surkotala is western side. Rupar, it is western side. Harappa Harappa is south side, and then Rocky Kedi, it is again a north side. Dolavira is a west side. Most of the sites, western side orientation is there. Even the Neolithic burials at Nagarjunagunda, it is also having the orientation of the west, because it is a very typical, similarity, we could say. So this again, it is a very, very, very strange the similarity. Burials of the Harappan people, there's also having the western facing orientation. Even the Neolithic people, their burial also west oriented. And coming to these all the types of burials we found in the Harappan civilization. And interestingly, some of the burial, I will take it, how it is very quite common with the Chalcolithic people as well as the megalithic people in South India. I am not talking the megalithic people is contemporary to the Harappan people. Definitely it is not the case. But their remains, their ideas has traveled for a long time, because even some of our ancestral idea has been filtrated to further down. Similar way, the Harappan ideas might have been further expanded and has been traveled to South India, and that has been used. Particularly some of the burial sites is very similar to the Harappan thing. I'll show you that is one at Chalcolithic site, Chinganur in Andhra Pradesh, where we got a similar type of burials what we see in the Harappan people. And then even the burials generally we found in the Pulvayal, even the Kiyadi, we got full burials like what we see in the Harappan people. And then this is the Harappan site burial. And putting the grave goods again, very interesting, because most of the megalithic the burials, they put the grave goods. The same formula we get in the Harappan site also, because they put all the grave goods along with the burials. Here you can see the pit burial. This Sangol in Uttar Pradesh, it is Harappan site, where they put the burials, pit burial. Along with the pit, they put the pots all along the burial. This is a similar type of burials we get in the Neolithic period, as well as some of the megalithic period, particularly in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, even Tamil Nadu. So there is a very good similarity between these two things. And then this is again Sangol, where we can see the grave goods, how they put it. And of course, this is the Adichinallur, where we got the similar things. And another type of thing is a chest burial. And one site in Gujarat is known as Surkotala. There they got, as most of the people we are aware, that megalithic burial is excoriated burial, because they collect the bones, then they put it. And we generally thought that Harappan culture, they have only the full burials. But here, Surkotala, we got only skeletal remains, like what we see in the megalithic. And apart from that, after putting the pot, over that they put a big slab, like we have that capstone, what we see in the megalithic burial. Similar type we found at Surkotala. This is a very big similarity between the two things. Here you can see, this is the thing which this is the Surkotala, Harappan period. The pit over that they put a slab over that. This is in Tamil Nadu. Actually, there is a pit here, then they put a slab over that. So this is again, we could see the similarity between the two aspects. Then coming to the rectangular chest burials, which is very common in South India, putting a slab, 4 slabs, then making a box. In that they put the burials. Similar type of burials we found in Kalibangan, and also many places in Kalibangan, Dolavira, even Rocky Kedi, they got it. So the chest burial, what we are talking in the megalithic period, similar type we got in the Kalibanga, Dholavira, Raki Kedi, and then Kunal, all these places. See, even the Kalibangan, actually instead of stone, they make a chamber in brick, and then they put the grave goods and then burial. See, this is the Kalibangan, the grave goods within the pit. This is the South Indian, the chest burial in the Brahmagiri. Of course, we have many examples in Tamil Nadu. This is the Dandi Kudi. And again, the double burial, which is many places we found a double burial in Harappan period. Similar type of double burial, male and female, they put together. Even the pet animals, they put along with the burial. This is very common in South India. Similar type of thing found in Harappa also, because these are the Harappan sites where we got the double burial, and also the pet animals, they also put along with the dead body. And similar type we found in Eleswaram in Andhra Pradesh, and even in Lothal, one burial they got it similar way. Pet burial, pet animal, they have buried along with the master. This is the Lothal, the double burial at Lothal, male and female, double burial. Similar type what we are seeing in the Eleswaram. This is the Eleswaram one. This is the Eleswaram one. Now we found a lot of varieties in Dholavira. I'll just take it a few examples, which is very similar to the megalithic elements. One is this is the barrow, or the kind of heap, like cane circle or cane heap. Similar type of cane heap we found in Tamil Nadu. And then this is the chest burial in the Dholavira. Similar chest we found in Tamil Nadu in megalithic context. These are the Dholavira, and we found a similar chest in Tamil Nadu. And of course, these are some of the chest burials in Tamil Nadu. And even the boat-shaped wooden coffins, it has found in the Harappan culture, Harappan civilization. And same type of boat-shaped wooden coffins is found in Andhra Pradesh. Particularly, some of the places, Uppalapadu in Andhra Pradesh, it is just adjacent to Tamil Nadu. There we got this wooden coffin. And then another interesting thing is the sarcophagus, which generally, I'll just come to that. This I will just skip this one. And there is an interesting burial we found in the Harappa, that is cement etch. In that, this is the burial yarn, in which there is a drawing. There is a peacock in the stomach of the peacock. The dead body is shown, and actually it is traveling. This thing, and it has been interpreted that when the dead body which goes to the either world, it has been transported through some animal or bat. This is the concept which Harappan people had. Similar concept we could see in Tamil Nadu in megalithic context. Actually, here we can see the ram. Here, this is some sort of animal thing, and this is again animal sarcophagus. This is almost the same concept, because it is a very, very strong, idea traveling from Harappa to the South Indian megalithic context. Again, I am telling that Harappa and megalithic is not the same period, but the idea has been traveled. Idea has been filtrated, or it has been traveled from there, and it has been from long period. It has been put into use. So this is the thing, and Sankaram, as I told, these are the places we got it. You could see the closer view of that one. See, actually, it is a burial yarn. And of course, the graffitis. There are a lot of studies has been carried out. B.B. Lal, the then Director General, he has made an extensive study of the graffitis. He has identified 61 basic graffitis, which has found. Out of that, 47 graffitis are common to the Harappan, Chalcolithic, and megalithic culture. It is almost 85% of the graffitis which is found in the Harappa, which is found in the megalithic context, as well as Chalcolithic context. So the idea has been traveled from America gradually. It has been traveled from in Harappa, then it has been traveled through Chalcolithic, then it came to South India. That's why this sort of similar, because graffitis cannot be just accidental, because it's not a thing. Nearly 85% of the graffitis which is found in megalithic context, it is found in the Harappan. It's very interesting. We have some more time. These are the common graffitis marks, and these are the common graffitis marks between the Harappan as well as the megalithic context. These are the Lothal. This is the Kodumandal and other sites, and this is the common between the Harappan as well as megalithic sites in Tamil Nadu. And now, of course, there are a lot of discussion about this, about the script, because it is a Dravidian script, or the thing actually Asko Parpola, Airavata Mahadevan, and even Dr. Morning sir was also talking about that. So a lot of discussion has been happening on that, and there is no conclusive evidence has been yet to arrive. But still, there is a possibility that Dravidian influence is there in the Harappan if it is identified as a script. And of course, this is the Dholavira, one of the biggest script ever found in the Harappan level. And then beads, basically the H Cornelian beads. Of course, Cornelian is found in Gujarat. That is the basic source. But the etching, like white etching, it is a very typical thing which is found in the megalithic context. But whereas many etched Cornelian beads into white etching is found in the Harappan sites. Actually, there is a specific technique for that, because they made that same technique has been adopted, because it has been chemically analyzed, particularly the etching in South India as well as etching in the Harappan level. They follow the same technique. They make alkaline type of etchings, then they fire it for certain temperature, then it's actually embedded into the core. That's why it won't further, dry out, or it won't fade out. This is the same technique has been followed both the megalithic level as well as the Harappan level. And of course, this is the H.D. Cornelian found in Harappan level. This is the H.D. Cornelians in Harappan level by Iran and other places. Of course, these are the Harappan level, and of course, this is in Tamil Nadu. Now coming to the trade, because these are the, of course, these are theory, but we don't have any proof for that. But still, there is a belief that the Harappan people might have taken the gold, because there is no nearest gold remains in the nearby area. Atti mines in Karnataka, what are the source for the gold? And then steatite, basically in that particular region, that Gujarat coast and Haryana, Rajasthan area, we never get the steatite. Definitely the steatite might have been traveled from Andhra Pradesh or Karnataka, because that is the main source. So from there it might have traveled. That possibility is because that steatite has been examined. The formation of the steatite of the Karnataka is very well matched to the steatite which is found, the steatite beads found in the Harappan region. Then Takalakota, Sivavaram in Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, where we got some sort of a burned steatite, very similar to that of the Harappan one. And also the copper branch which is found at Pickley Hall, it is a typical Harappan origin, because same composition, the metal composition. Then coming to the pottery, as we all know, that black and red ware, it is a very, very peculiar type of pottery in the megalithic context. But this black and red ware is found in the pre-Harappan level and Harappan level. So definitely, actually, it is not only found in the megalithic context alone, or the Iron Age context alone in South India, but the same black and red ware found in the Harappan period, pre-Harappan period, even Harappan period, and Chalcolithic period in the central India. And these sort of things has been found. Again, the technique, basically the black and red pottery has been made inverted firing. Just they put it in the kiln inverted, then they fire it. That's why they make it a black at the edge and then white oxidization on the red side on the top one. Similar technique has been used even for the making potteries in the Harappan period as well as the megalithic period. It is also one of the biggest similarity we could see. And then burnished graveware, it is a typical pottery of the Neolithic period. The same burnished graveware is found in the Lothal and Daimabad. And then white painted black-handed ware, which is very commonly found in Chalcolithic as well as in T. Kallupatti in Tamil Nadu. Same type as found in the late Harappan level, even the Chalcolithic period in central India. These are the four-legged, commonly we found in the megalithic context. Of course, these are the potteries. See, there is similarity of this cup type, this sort of cup thing we could see in the megalithic context. Now I will come to the conclusion because this was what I was talking. I'll just read it in Tamil. மேற்கண்ட தடயங்கள் ஆய்வுகள் வாயிலாக சிந்து சமவெளி நாகரிகம் தென்னிந்தியாவின் புதிய கற்கால நாகரிகத்துடன் தொடர்பு கொண்டிருந்தது என்பதை அறிய முடிகிறது. சிந்து சமவெளி நாகரிகம் வீழ்ச்சியுற்ற பிறகு, that is after the decline of the Harappan civilization, probably there is an hypothesis. I am not talking. It is my final thing. It is all subject to the clarification by the scholars. Probably the Harappan people might have migrated to the downwards, and they bring along with them their traditions or culture, and probably that is the reason we get most of the South India their traits, the cultural traits. This is just a hypothesis. Of course, it's subject to the further studies. We can able to prove it. At present, that is only hypothesis. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a real challenge to keep ourselves erect immediately after lunch. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to present to you about what we have done with the IM 77 concordance. But before that, I'd like to let you know what the concordance actually has. Because I see a lot of students behind sitting, it may be useful for them, if not for experts. So the IM Web 77 concordance, and there are two parts. I'm going to talk about the Web concordance and also the future of the index concordance. Right. And what are the tools that we really need when we approach the language? Especially, I mean, you have the script and we know that we don't know what the language is. So there are, the most important tool is a concordance. In Tamil, it's called Thodar Adaivu. Let us see what it is. First of all, a few facts about the script itself. You know, these the scripts are found in small seals or ceilings of this size, just this size. And they're also very brief, about 4 or 5 signs only. And they have some sort of pictographic representations like fish, men, women, or some crocodile, elephant, so on. And in total, according to Airavata Mahadevan, he has identified about 417 scripts, even though there are scholars agree between 400 and 450. In some cases, like in the case of Brian Wells, he has identified more number of signs. I'll tell you why it is like that. So, and these signs are also joined usually by strokes. If you know it is a particular script, then we say it is a ligature. For instance, ka, you have the Khatune Kal, or ki, you have the ligature. In Indus, we can't say it's a ligature because we have really not identified what the alphabets are. And this script has remained in a frozen format for nearly 1,500 years. No bilingual text has been seen so far. So that becomes the biggest challenge. So these Indus scripts are found on seals, ceilings, incised copper tablets, miniature tablets, very small miniature tablets, tools, and there are also some broken seals found. What does the seal contain? It contains what Airavata Mahadevan calls as a field symbol, usually an animal or a bird or something like that, a figure or a figurine. And then on top of that or bottom of that, there is the script, which has got some initial signs, medial signs, and final signs. So he has categorized as initial, medial, and final because certain symbols come only in the initial position, certain elements come only in the final position. So he has already identified that, and it is possible only through a concordance. So for example, you see the initial sign. Here, then you have the first two signs, the initial pair, medial triplet, final pair, and the final sign. So this classification is very useful because useful when you really want to segment the text. Without this kind of analysis, you really can't identify whether this is a language or it means something or not. Now, this field symbol is usually a conventional motif. It's a very interesting term that he uses. As a field symbol. It's a symbol. It is in that particular field, and it must signify something, but we don't know what it means right now. But probably in that particular field symbol, it must be some kind of a context that it has a meaning. So there's a script above the seal, above the symbol, and there is a particular field symbol below. So probably it has some kind of meaning. For instance, this is identified as a unicorn. We really don't know whether a unicorn existed or not, but people who excavated in the beginning, they call it unicorn. So by way of convention, we call it as a unicorn. Probably it is a representation from one side, and if we had the other side also, we will know, or from a particular angle, probably it had two horns. So in any case, we will call it unicorn because it was called so, till we have proper evidences for that. So some of the symbols may come in a particular context, therefore it becomes to understand the field symbol also. There are several such field symbols. In this case, it's sort of an antelope. And there are other field symbols like an elephant, tiger, rhinoceros, gharial, hare, antelope. The two types of antelopes. One is a goat antelope, another one is an ox antelope. So there are several field symbols like this. But what is not available in this context is definitely we have not found a lion, and definitely we have not found a horse. So if somebody says there is a horse, then there is probably they're trying to cheat us. So it's important to understand these field symbols also. And several scholars have agreed, like Mahadevan, Ascoperpola, Brian Wells, and a few other scholars also have agreed that the writing is from right to left. So the statistics show it's right to left. 83% of it is right to left, 6% is left to right, and there are different ways to write: short, top, bottom, bottom, top, sort of different types of directions are found, and this can be very easily deconstructed even by school children in just a matter of 2 or 3 hours. So if somebody says if it's from left to right, and then again there's a problem there. So some of the different ways of writing right to left, and then it goes right to left, then comes back this way, and this goes back again. So this type of writing is called bothrophodon, like how an ox plows a field. So that way it's called bothrophodon. So what is the status of the IndusScript decipherment? It is still underway. Like in the morning when somebody was talking about it, I'm not sure who. It has been found that it is a script. There are people who say it's not a script. According to Mahadevan, it is a script. According to Ascoperpola, it's a script. And we have also seen evidences to prove that it is a script and it is a particular language. And while some people try to prove that it is not a script, then there was papers written on that, especially one important paper by Airavata Mahadevan, Rajesh Rao. I think it is a group of scientists from Indian Institute of Mathematical Sciences here, anti-IFR, in the science, saying they went through a particular model and they established that this is a language. What they did was they used the IndusScript as one of the controlling mechanisms, and then they use English, they use some other languages, and they also used some sort of gibberish and fed into the system and identified different patterns. And wherever there were languages, it had a particular curve, and IndusScript also matched along the same curve, and therefore it was proved that it is a language. And for this particular thing, concordance becomes very, very important. And let us see what is the corpus. This is what you see on the left is a sign list prepared by Mahadevan. As I mentioned earlier, there are 417 signs that he had listed and very carefully drawn with illustrators. And this was published in the year 1977 by the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. Yeah, imagine, that I think the first computers came to India around that time. And even at that time, they used this rudimentary computer system to analyze this. And there are also sign variants on the right-hand side. There's a difference between a sign and a sign variant. The difference is this. According to Mahadevan, you may see one symbol. For instance, in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and different locations, there may be some minor variations of a particular sign. He calls this as a sign variant, whereas Ascoperpola and Brian Wells, they call it as a different sign itself. So that is the major difference between these scholars. And Mahadevan would argue, see, what the disadvantages they have and the advantages that he had was that he knew the cultural context of the subcontinent, and therefore he believed that these are sign variants and not a different sign. This is the only published concordance. Ascoperpola has done a concordance, but that is only circulated among friends. and it's not published. Brian Wells is not published. It's available as an online on an online platform. So you can only search one at a time, I think. Am I right? So these are some of the disadvantages. Being the only published concordance, there is a lot of demand for this concordance and the data set especially. So what we did, we cracked the codes, and along with Mahadevan, we sat with him and we encoded all the sign list and prepared numbers, and carefully, he had already done that in the beginning, but we also did this exercise again so that we wanted to compare and see if everything is in order. And then we use this data set for the web concordance that I'm going to show you. So another advantage is this becomes a centralized ownership, so that making this available in one place, anybody can use this. And this particular concordance, which was published by ASI, went out of circulation. They said that it's not available. However, if you go to the godowns of ASI, you can still find these concordances. Like you have one. Sorry? Yeah, but he has used a different data set. It is not complete. This is a complete one after 1977. See how meticulous he has done this. He prepared a card like this. He used photographs. He took photographs of the seals, and then he wrote numbers for every single photograph and gave a code number for the signs. This was then fed into the computer. So can we have a look at the Indus script concordance? This was done in collaboration with the Department of Archaeology, Government of Tamil Nadu. We were wondering what to do during this pandemic, and thankfully they gave a grant, and through that grant we found experts to work on this, and through a Flutter program, this has been converted into a web concordance, and the entire data set is now available free for scholars, and they don't have to ask, they can just acknowledge and use the data. So what is this, what the features that this particular web concordance has? This, you can browse, you can filter by location, you can display the concordance, search the concordance, and then you can also browse through field symbols, and go to the table, and you can give the number and create your own table for single, pair, and triplet. This is through the filter. If you want to see only Mohenjo-daro, you can see. If you want only Chandhu-daro, or if you want to see all the sites, you can see. Or if you want to see only the seals, the data of the seals, or only the data of copper tablets, everything, whatever you want, in whichever manner you want, you can search. This is the concordance. These are field symbols, motifs of the field symbols. So you can select a particular field symbol and list all the seals, all the inscriptions that that come along with that particular field symbol. And this is the table page. And the results of the table, you can download that as a PDF file. So when you write a paper, if you want to, let's say if you want to see whether this sign and this sign come together, and you find at least 50 occurrences, and based on that you interpret these scripts, you can write your paper, download this, and attach it. So it becomes very simple for research scholars. I only wish Airavata Mahadevan was alive to see this. Unfortunately, can we see the site itself? How much time do I have? So I'm still within my time. Okay. I'll quickly take 2-3 minutes. So this is the site. Maybe you should go to the concordance. And if you see the concordance, and you can select any number. Sign number, let's say sign number 1. And yeah. You already have sign number 1. Type some other number. Yeah. So all the sign numbers with the, see this. This is the index. So you can see what comes before and after. What comes before and after. Now quickly go to basket or field symbols. Sorry. Select any, let's say select elephant. And you browse, go down, you see all the seals and ceilings with that field symbol elephant. So this is possible now. Okay, you can, it's for you to explore. And as I said, it's free for all and you can acknowledge and use it. Can you go back to last slide that? So this concordance is right now available. It's called the IM77 concordance. But Airavata Mahadevan was dreaming about a new updated concordance. So we have this responsibility on our shoulders to create that. And how do we create that? With the help of these volumes. ASCO Parpola has published these volumes. There are 3 volumes and the 3rd volume has 2 parts. So, as I mentioned earlier, this concordance was published in the year 1977. All excavations that happened even after 77 has been published in this, and they are only pictorial images. They are the photographs of seals and ceilings. So what we need to do is to code them and embed them into the software again. And that's a major project. We tried this using artificial intelligence, and we were not successful. We were only 60% successful. People have tried this. So it has to be a manual work. It might take 2 years. So, but it's very important that we have this so that you can take industry research further only if you have this concordance, which is a very important tool. Next slide. That's it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Hello, sir.
Hello, yes.
Could you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
His sound is not coming. Muted.
Can you hear
Sir,
me?
unmute.
Unmute. What is mute? I can't. Hello? Hello?
Sir, we could not hear you. Just unmute your.
अनम्यूट कर रहे कुछ क्या अनम्यूट करना है अनम्यूट ही करें
Sorry, could you hear me?
I can hear you.
He's hearing. He's hearing, but only his voice is not coming.
Hello?
Sir, just a moment.
अनम्यूट क्या है अनम्यूट क्या है मतलब म्यूट क्या
हेलो हाँ आवाज नहीं आ रहा तो म्यूट क्या करें अनम्यूट क्या करना है आई डोंट नो व्हाट इज टू अनम्यूट
Now is audible, no problem at all. Thank you very much for very good afternoon, sir.
It's not required, sir. That is not working. Hello, good afternoon.
Sir, on behalf of Tamil Nadu State Archaeology Department, we welcome you online. Please
Thank
continue
you.
with your presentation. Thank you very much, sir. Your chairperson is Professor B.K. Cherian.
Chairperson, I couldn't catch you. With the chairperson.
Cherian.
Please carry on. Please.
Who's correct?
You have to speak, sir, now.
Huh?
You have to speak.
Hello? Hello?
Sir, we
Hello?
can hear you. Please carry on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you.
I'm audible.
Yes, it's audible. Little,
So should I speak?
yes, please.
Okay. First of all, I thank Dr. Rajan profusely for inviting me to appear in this webinar. And I'm equally thankful to RMRL Chennai for organizing this seminar. Actually, I have asked Dr. Rajan that I'm not going to make any presentation. I have appeared just to pay my warmest, my highest homage to Dr. Iravatham Mahadevan, a great scholar, a great human being, a very astute administrator. I recall that in the mid-70s, he told me that he is working on this index script. And he also told me that the Fundamental Research Institute is also helping him in developing software for the Harappan science. And how he contacted me, because I have been exploiting the site of Banawali, a Harappan township. So he came to know about this exploration, and he came to know about the finding of so many seals and other written material. So one day I got a call from Mr. Jagatpal Joshi, late Dr. Jagatpal Joshi, that the Dr. I Mahadevan is want to talk to me. I said, it's okay, welcome. Then he came on the phone, he told me that he will be coming the following Sunday to Chandigarh to see the material himself, Banawali material. That was Sunday. I said, it's okay, he's most welcome. He came. It was a very wintry, very cool day, sometime in the middle of the 70s. He sat with us all through the day. He said each and everything and made notes and all that. At that time, he told me about what he's working and how Fundamental Institute Bombay is helping him in developing software and all that, and to prepare a computer copy for printing this. And in 1977, his concordance of the text, tables and text were published. So it was a great work. He had been working on that for 7 years. And this was the result of very hard work that put in by him. It was, for the first time, a concordance of the science was made. It is not very easy task. He raced through. He studied thousands of signs found in a number of seals and sealings and copper tablets and some other medium, those occur. But at last he told me that he has come to the conclusion that 417 signs are such, which are in the sign value of the Harappan script. It was very interesting. I found him very, very humble person, though he was already joint secretary in the Ministry of Industries in the Government of India. He was such a down to earth, such a humble person, and such a knowledgeable person. So that impressed me very much. So it was a very pleasant meeting with him. And later I found that the concordance had been published by the Article Survey of India. Then only I realized how much work he must have put into that. It was very inspiring. And just now I have been hearing that some expert scholar was speaking on the science, the science and the approach of Dr. I. Mahadevan, and also how they are working on that material which has recently been later published by Asko Partola in collaboration with the scholars of ASI, Pakistan Archaeology, and third, I'm talking about the third volume of the Asko Partola's volumes. I hope something good will come out. So I'm nothing to speak much about that. As I told you that I have appeared here, as I told Dr. Rajan, to make my regards, to my respect, heartfelt respect to departed soul. That is, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming over online. Could you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, you are a great scholar and you are my teacher and Guruji. And for the time of Banavali and our Jagatpati Joshi, and you are working together and you are remembered Dr. Aida Mahadevan very well, and very thank you for your kind words and your academic interactions. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. I should say that I am no expert on the calligraphy of the Harappans. Though I have been exploring their side, but then that was not my cup of tea. So thank you very much. Okay. So इतना था.
Okay, I think we have one more paper. But, Oh, okay. 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 So you can announce. Okay. Discussion, anything? I thank you for the wonderful two papers. I had some simple doubt. Actually, Dr. Dayanandan made a beautiful presentation, especially those children. They have been very much benefited. But I was wondering how this map of the Indus Valley culture is not coming down. It is going always west. Of course, archaeological evidences are going. At least we have now toponymical evidence, hypothetically at least, that it should come little down so that so I am just so important publications have come. At least this so archaeocentric, it's important. We don't have any doubt. No, that is not. No, we can create all kinds of maps, and we have wonderful maps, especially in Dr. Yeah. But no, it happens to me as a teacher because we are not often sensitive to the new frontiers, new hypothesis that is coming. So often, and there is a gap also, very serious gap between Indus and the kind of things that we push down. But I think hypothetically it is important because the children should think, because this is a hypothesis, new evidences are emerging. That is one point. About Sundarji, I was asking, he has gone out. Okay, I just wanted to ask this kind of a website, how it can be useful for students. Of course, it's a kind of a compendium of information. But how the permutation combination or young students work on it? Or in other words, what is the research kind of question involved? No, he had gone, he will answer sometimes back. Otherwise, any question? Yeah. Very briefly, we have, come.
Now, after exploration or intensive exploration, we have come down to Saraswati Valley and further down to Maharashtra. Of course, in future, I think most of our dream will come true because like all of us will come to true because when we make Saraswati Valley, yeah, Saraswati Valley. Yeah, it is right up, but then the railway channel is down.
Yeah, we can discuss actually then.
I just interfere in that. It is a great debate. It is about our Saraswati. Of course, we agree. We agree to disagree. First thing.
Even Dr. Issa book has been mentioned about that. Either book has been mentioned about that. Saraswati, that is the three they mentioned. And you can go through all the archaeological reports.
Fine.
Even Haribanga,
Sir, please. Sorry for interference. See, we can, sir, 1 minute. You can put a direct questions related to things to the participants or delegates or to the presenter. But these things can be discussed even away from the seminar hall with personally with Dr. Dayalan. He is very much available because the long discussion will go on. We have to see other papers which are in the pipeline. By 4:20, we have to attend the international scholars who are
Sundarji.
coming on the online. And I thank.
Yeah. No, Sundarji have a quick answer.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. I think children will have a great fun in using the software. I think they will definitely, without this kind of training, probably out of the box thinking, they might be able to crack certain things.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we can introduce this to them, they can play with it seamlessly. They can play with it.
Yeah, I have a kid in me. I will also play with it. Yeah.
The issue is a fundamental. But the thing is that what is that a great amount of unlearning needs to be done. History, narrative, and the archaeology. This problem is not unwilling to unlearn. Then in the process, what happened? Because that you have already fixed it. What is urban, what is Neolithic, what is Neolithic, what is Megalithic and all. Then you never think through the time and space. When you make a provision that there is a urban civilization, then which is about which there is no literature available in the surface in the northern India. When there is a another classical language, the first literature written, which have absolutely urban literature par excellence about India. Either they must have told a lie, or they should talk about with an experience, and then there must be, if the provision is made for the hypothetical values in the academic discourses, if the provision is made for the hypothetical thesis which discussed in 1925, which has been ruled out long back, so then there has to be a provision should be made to think about the out of box where the hypothetical situation, at least after the research works are published. So that's a problem. It takes a lot of time, and I am not expecting that to happen immediately because they have to unlearn it.
Yeah, thank you. So one more question. Yeah, we are running short of time. We'll have in the parlays of. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dayalan.
Thank you very much. Just a moment, sir. Thank you very much for the chairing the session. We will wholeheartedly thank Professor Cherian To honor the session, I request Dr. Balakrishnan to present a memento to the chairperson, Professor B.J. Cherian. So we also make a present the memento virtually to Dr. Bist, my president. Sir Bisaf, could you hear me? Yeah, please. Sir. Yeah, we will send you by courier to him. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear.
Namaskar, sir.
Okay.
बोल पा रहे हैं आप सर.
I think Dr. Murugan is on the line. Next.
You want to speak the Nikol?
I request Dr. Sundar to make a present to Dr. Dayalan also. I request Dr. Dayalan.
मेरी इमेज वहां नहीं जा रही है ना.
Now I request
This.
to make a presentation to Mr. Sundar. Sir Sundar, sir. Sir Sundar. Yeah, identity. Flower. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much. There is a 15 minutes break for tea, and we will reassemble here by 4:20 because we are having Dr. Appasamy Murugayan is waiting on the line, and also Catherine Morrison also would come. Please do come back within 15 minutes.
Unmute करके बोलो, अब बोलिए आप सर. बोलिए सर, बोलिए.
Hello, Dr. Rajan. Can you hear me?
Session over.
चलिए वो बिजी है.
Hello. Sir, is it audible, sir? Hello. Hello. Sir, is it audible, sir? Murugan, sir. Is it audible, sir? Hello. Hello. Sir, is it audible, sir? Hello. Sir, can you hear me, sir? Sir, can you just check your line, sir? Kindly do unmute, sir. We can check your audio, sir. Hello.
வணக்கம். கேக்குதா நான் பேசுறது? ஹலோ 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 ஹலோ.
Just we want to find you, sir. Just hold. So just pick something.
கேக்குதா நான் பேசுறது?
கேக்குது சார், கேக்குது சார்.
சரி, அப்போ நல்லது.
வால்யூம் கம்மியா இருக்கு சார், கொஞ்சம் லவுடா பேச முடியுங்க?
நான் பேசுறேன். இருங்க வரேன். என்னோட மைக்கு சரியா வந்திருக்கா? இப்ப கேக்குதுங்களா சரியா?
சரியா இருக்கு சார். கொஞ்சம் வால்யூம் எதாவது இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ண முடியுமா சார்?
இதுக்கு மேலனா நான் வேகமா சத்தமா தான் பேசணும். சத்தமா பேசினா இங்க டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்ல இருக்கிறவங்க எழுப்பி விட்டுருவேன்.
இல்ல சார், கொஞ்சம் நாங்க இப்ப இந்த வால்யூம் மட்டும் கொஞ்சம் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணி பாக்குறோம் சார்.
இதுக்கு மேல
கொஞ்சம் நாங்க இங்க ஃபைன் டியூன் பண்ணி பாக்குறோம் சார்.
சரி பின்ன.
ஓகே.
எனக்கு வந்து ஷேரிங் கொடுங்க, பவர் பாயிண்ட் ஷேரிங். நானே நேரா கொடுத்துட்றேன். எங்களுக்கெல்லாம் டீ அனுப்ப மாட்டீங்களா?
ஹலோ. ஹலோ சார், கொஞ்சம் இப்ப ஏதாவது பேசுங்க சார், ட்ரை பண்ணி பாருங்க.
டீ எங்களுக்கெல்லாம் கிடையாதா? நீங்களே குடிச்சிடுறீங்க.
சார் எங்களுக்கு இன்னும் தரல சார்.
கஷ்டகாலம். சரி, எங்க ஊருக்கு வாங்க, நான் தரேன்.
ஸ்பிரிச்சுவலா கொடுக்குறோம் சார்.
இப்ப சரியா கேக்குதுங்களா?
கேக்குது சார்.
சரி, அவங்க ராஜகோபால் சார் வந்தாங்க, போயிட்டாங்களா? வெளியில போயிட்டாங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
ஆமா.
சரி, நான் இங்கே தான் இருக்கேன், ஒன்றும் சிக்கல் இல்லை. நீங்க எனக்கு முன்னால வேற ஒரு 2 பேர் பேசுறாங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
ஒருத்தர் இருக்காங்க சார், கேத்ரின் மோரிசன் இருக்காங்க. அவங்க இன்னும் வரல.
சரி, வரட்டும்.
உங்களுக்கு நம்ம ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம்.
சரி பின்ன, நான் இங்கே தான் இருக்கேன்.
ஓகே.
ஓகே, தேங்க்ஸ்.
Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. hello.
அவங்க வந்து சுத்தமா வாய்ஸ் கேட்க அவங்க வந்து ஆன்லைன்ல இருந்து பேசுறாங்க பாத்தீங்களா, அவங்க வந்து சுத்தமா வாய்ஸ் கேட்க
We have come to the third session. We have come to the third session. The first day seminar. We have three people who will be presenting. One is Professor Kathleen Morrison from University of Pennsylvania. She's a professor of anthropology. And we have Professor Appasamy Murugayan, who is an associate professor, Iranian and Indian World Research Unit, National Center for Scientific Research, Paris. He also is a linguist from PhD from University of Paris. And we also have Dr. S. Swaminathan, who is a former Deputy Superintending Epigraphist from the ASI. I think Professor Appasamy Murugayan is online right away, who can start presenting his paper. And the time, I think, is for 20 minutes, sir. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Hello.
Sir, hello. Sir, Murugan, sir, can we start, sir?
Hello.
Sir, start பண்ணலாமா sir?
அவங்க எனக்கு முன்னால பேசுறவங்க இல்லையா? நான் ஆரம்பிச்சிடவா இப்போ? உங்க சௌரியம்.
Murugan, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you hear me? நான் பேசுறது கேக்குதா?
Just a moment, we will start.
Okay.
You're doing well.
Would you please let me to screen share?
One moment.
Thank you.
Can you say something, please? Hello, good evening. Can you, Professor Murugan, can you say something?
Yeah, thanks to the organizers. I'm really happy to be with you.
You're audible. Just there's a small problem with our speaker here. One
Uh-huh.
moment. Professor Murugan, I think you can start. Please go ahead.
Okay. Would you please let me share my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Vanakkam. Good afternoon to everybody. Just let me thank the organizers for inviting me to this great conference. I'll be just directly going to three of the points I want to discuss with you. First of all, I want to thank on behalf of some of my colleagues who are interested in Proto-Dravidian and Proto-Tamil historical linguistics, Sri Airavada Mahadevan for his contribution in his book, Early Tamil Epigraphy, and also some of his analysis, linguistic analysis he has made in his book. I'm not going to talk much about the theoretical issues because that will be very difficult. When you look into the historical reconstruction of Dravidian and Proto-Dravidian, there are few inconsistencies because most of you might be knowing that the reconstruction was made on some of the data which were available to the linguist of those days, but unfortunately they have not taken into account.
Hello.
Yes.
Professor Murugan, I think you
Yeah.
have to wait for a moment. I'm sorry. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Professor Murugan, can you say something, please?
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm online whenever you want. Do you hear me?
Professor Murugan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
You hear me? Hello. Professor Murugan, can you say something, please?
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm online whenever you want. Do you hear me?
Professor Murugan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Hello.
Hello.
ஒண்ணுமே காணுமே. நான் வெயிட் பண்றேன், ஒன்னும் காணுமே. ஓ, அவரு பேசக்குள்ளயும் உங்களுக்கு வரல. எனக்கு கேட்டுச்சு, எனக்கு முன்னால பேசினார்ல. அங்க உங்க சிஸ்டம், ஆமா உங்க சிஸ்டத்துல ஏதோ ப்ராப்ளம். நான் இதான் இருக்கேன், வெயிட் பண்றேன். பரவாயில்ல, மெதுவா பாருங்க. ஓகே ஓகே, தேங்க்ஸ் தேங்க்ஸ். ஆமா சரி. பண்ணட்டும் பண்ணட்டும், பொறுமையா சேட், ஒன்றும் அவசரம் இல்லை. ஓகே, ஒன்றும் ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லை. தேங்க்ஸ்.
இதுல வந்து இதுல ஸ்பீக்கர் இருக்குல்ல, அது பக்கத்துல மைக் வச்சு ஓகேவா? இதுல இருந்து
இல்ல இந்த
சிஸ்டம்
இந்த லேப்ல இருந்து இந்த லேப்ல இருந்து தான் வெளில
ஓகே ஃபைன், அதுல பண்ணலாம்.
மைக்ல இப்போ பேசு. ஹலோ, நான் என்னோட இதுல ஆன்ல தான் இருக்கு. ஹலோ, இன்னொரு மைக்
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear. I'm here. I can hear.
ஹலோ, சொல்லுங்க, அவங்க பேசுறாங்களா? சரி. என்னங்க?
Pull down the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Now we can see you. Yeah. Can you say something? Let's see if our speakers are working.
Are you asking me, Professor Morrison? It's Murugayan now.
One second, please. Sorry, it might take a few.
Hello, sir. Can you say something just for checking purpose?
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon. Yeah, yeah. Please continue, sir. Please continue with your presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry.
I think there is a problem with your sound system. I think I don't know whether you can hear it properly. Okay. Yeah. I was telling that I'm just this is simply to thank with the gratitude Airavada Mahadevan for his book and also for his analysis. This is not only a thanks from my part alone, because we are so many linguists interested in the Proto-Dravidian historical linguistics. So the book of Airavada Mahadevan came to us as a boon. It's a treasure. And also, in addition to what he has published, he also made some linguistic analysis of the Tamil Brahmi inscriptions in his book. So my talk is based on what he has said in relation to some of the Proto-Dravidian reconstructed items. So usually Dravidian morphology, they say, is agglutinative. And second, there are noun and verbs as two distinctive part of speech. Third, all Proto-Dravidian verbs are finite or non-finite. And finally, the basic word order of Proto-Dravidian and also Proto-Tamil is subject, object, verb. Unfortunately, or fortunately, when you look into the data from Sangam literature and also from the book of Airavada Mahadevan, this reconstructed proposal, this reconstruction seemed to creating a lot of problems. And also what I'm going to say is not specifically from my own work. Before me, there are earlier scholars who have worked on these questions, Caldwell and now T.P. Meenakshi Sundaram, and also Ramaswamy Iyer, and also French linguists like Jules Bloch, and lately Dr. V.S. Rajam, 1992. They also have raised discussions, but unfortunately, these historically important questions have not been taken into account. Okay, so first thing is it has been completely accepted by everybody that Dravidian and Proto-Tamil is agglutinative. But when you look into the analysis of Airavada Mahadevan, that's one of the most important contributions to the understanding of Proto-Dravidian and Proto-Tamil. You all might have read this book, so let me not go into the details. He says clearly that the writing system in the early Brahmi Tamil is not like what we have now. It was only analytical in the sense that words are written not with the consonant vowel combinations, and he has given enough evidence from the writing system paleographically that and in the period of Brahmi Tamil writing system, it was only analytical. So he says that does not represent alphabetic writing like what we have now. So simply to say that analytical language, roughly a language in which each word it will be written or used separately with different grammatical functions. Okay, but in Tamil nowadays, modern Tamil, you have what we call this agglutination, where the grammatical functions are marked by morphemes. Okay, that's simply. I'm not going to go into the details. It's very difficult. Just to give one example. In Mangalam, you see this agglutination and also analytical structure. Kaniyanandi Kodiyavan. So whatever be the analysis, you can get into that. This Avan here, it's marked not as a PNG marker, person, number, gender marker, but its pronoun itself is used as such. So this is what we call, only in later period, this avan has become an, kodatan. Simply to let's know that even today in Jaffna Tamil, when it's a past tense, they say avan vandavan, avar vandavar, aval vandaval. So they use the pronoun directly, but not a criticized form. But in modern Tamil, in Tamil Nadu, we use avan vandan. Okay, that's one of the most important things. Next, next coming to the, because I think I have only 20 minutes, so I'm just rushing up. Originally, nominal and verbal roots are not identified exactly. That was told even by Caldwell in 1856. Only in later period, nouns and verbs have been distinguished, become a separate part based on the morphological and also derivational morphology. Here, I'm taking again examples from Airavata Mahadevan. The based on the analytical writing form, based on the analytical writing form, this is really the same issue we have. Some of the neuters grammatically, panan, this an is written separately instead of panavan, and also the in I am, which means tank. It was not written separately, and also send instead of sendan, send is written. Okay, so vira instead of viran, vira is written, and also kuvira viran. Okay, then again another example, kala nuru kala nel. So you can see the way Airavata Mahadevan has deciphered the Brahmi Tamil. Whatever be the analysis, here you get the same kind of problem. Not problem, evidence. Kalam in modern Tamil, it's kalam, but in Brahmi Tamil period, it's only kala. So this fits very well into the theory that early Proto-Dravidian was not agglutinative, but it was only analytical. And also another issue is noun and verb distinction. It has been clearly demonstrated by scholars like T.P. Meenakshi Sundaram and also Ramasamy Iyer, and even before that Caldwell. At no point they say that there was any distinction between noun and verb. Only in later period this distinction was developed due to the derivational morphology. So here I take one example from Airavata Mahadevan. Sambakal, it's a place name. Cham, adjective good, and also pagal, that he says that comes from puku, suffix of the verbal noun. And another example, Turkai, is probably a verbal noun. So he says, based on the morpheme, ending morpheme, probably they were verbal nouns. So again, at some point, especially during the Tamil Brahmi period, there was no distinction. And also we should be very careful. In modern Tamil and also later medieval Tamil, this al morpheme has been used to develop verbal nouns. But in those days, even in Sangam literature, we know that there are some 20-25 morphemes for which we have no any clear idea of what their functions are. But they are used in many functions. That what we call in modern linguistics polyfunctional. Okay, this is again another contribution from Airavata Mahadevan's analysis. Finiteness. That's one of the most important characteristic features of Indian languages and also Tamil and Dravidian languages. There must be one finite verb in a sentence to complete the predication. I'm not the first one to say this. There are so many scholars who have talked about this problem, but unfortunately, these points have not been taken into account by those scholars who reconstructed the Dravidian and Tamil. So Mahadevan himself, he says, a remarkable feature of the inscription in the corpus is the absence of finite verb forms. This is not only in Tamil Brahmi inscription, even in later period inscriptions, we don't find, or we find very rarely, maybe 1 or 2% of finite verbs. So this again put into question the reconstructed Proto-Dravidian ideas. Next, subject, object, word order. I'll come to that later. Let me take one example. This is Puliman Kombe inscription. Everybody knows about this inscription. The thing I want to make is Kal Pedu Tiyan Andan Andaman Kudalo Ragol. Yeah, honestly, there is no any morphology. Honestly, there is no any word order. But this belongs to what we call not subject object verb distinction, but it's different kind of linguistic analysis, topic and comment. So probably, not probably, this has been, kal is there and they are going to say something on the kal. So probably you can interpret this as this, the kal before which you are standing is, okay, we are going to say something on that. And what we are going to say is that this has been erected in honor of Peduthi and Andavan when during a dispute which took place in Kodalur. So this is completely different. We all, unfortunately, have been misled by the classical analysis of modern linguistics, where we used to go for subject, object, verb. And also, as you can see here, there is no any morphological evidences. The only thing is each word, each base has a meaning. Based on the meaning, we construct the sentence. And also before constructing the sentence, you should also know the social background. So without knowing the social background, we cannot understand the sentence. We cannot understand the propositional meaning. Yeah, here you have another evidence from Airavada Mahadevan's book, Kaninagan, Kaninathan, Iruvar, Amakal. Ama, this here created. So Kaninagan and Kaninathan, these two people created this stone bed. Ama is a bare stem, Ama, to create. There is no any past tense morphology, nor causative morphology, nothing. You have only one gentleman, Kaninagan, another Kaninathan, Iruvar. Fortunately, there is this numeral marker. These two people did something. What did they do? They did this stone bed. So this only thanks to this verbal lexeme or lexeme, which gives the idea of the creation. You should look into, take into account the bare stem. And again, here we have another word order, coming to word order. Palli Seivithan Kadigai Ven Mahan Perukutran. So here, as in the previous example, Puliman Kombai, Palli is the topic. So you are standing before this Palli, bed, hermitage, and they are going to say what is that hermitage and who did and when. So topic is Palli, Seivithan Kadigai Ven Mahan Perungutran. You can also say this is equative. They put the Palli and they say what is something they are going to develop, and they have developed the idea of Palli, saying that that was constructed by somebody. Here you have another example, very interesting. Ubasan Tundilavan Kodupalli, and the next example, Sandiraditan Kodupiton. So you have here only give bare stem without any morphological evidences, but here you have causative and also pronominal termination. So we have no time to see why there are variations, but please note that there are variations and they have these two forms and they could use one or the other. It's not a question of ungrammatical thing. It's a question of how we understand the thing. As I said, in those periods, we did not need, I think, based on the evidences we have, based on the data we have, morphological distinctions to say whether this is past or present or causative or transitive or intransitive. So when coming to the word order, when Kasipan Kudupita Kal Kanjanam. Here this is the word order is not SOV, but always it will be like this. Here we say important information, known information. Based on the known, we go to the unknown. So when Kasipan is probably known, or he is the one who constructed this Kal Kanchanam. And what he did, he gave this Kal Kanchanam. So almost all the sentences, even in medieval Tamil inscriptions up to 19th century, we have only this kind of construction. No SOV, because as I have said previously, there was no point distinction between finite and non-finite word. And also there were so many lexical items. Based on the meaning of the lexical item, we could identify whether it was a construction or donation, or they cut the stone beds and other things. Yeah, again, morphological, slowly you can see, on this is a question, whether this is the period or the same period. We had also morphological elements which appeared, kodu or. So this appears, and these are all based on two things. One, the explanations given by Airavata Mahadevan, and also linguistic theories. I must say that the linguistic theories have changed tremendously the last 50 years, and we have so many new tools to analyze. Instead of saying that the people who engraved Tamil Brahmi inscriptions did not know the Tamil grammar. No, I'm sorry, that was not the case. But they used a different kind of grammar that was not known to us at the time, and also that unfortunately had not been taken into account or marked in the traditional Tamil grammars. Last thing is, he says this is also very important. Words, some of the words were lost or used only in Brahmi Tamil inscriptions. We also know there are so many words which were used in Sangam literature. They are lost and we don't know what they are. So naturally, he gives this example, Andai. Andai, based on Andai, he gives so many explanations which are acceptable. And also probably Andai, which became merely honorific. And later on, it has been developed to Yandai, Undai, Nundai and all. And also he gives another example, I, which was later lexicalized into Tai. Okay, so these are the 3 points which are very important from the book of Airavata Mahadevan. And also I had few chances to discuss with him. Yeah, he accepted this new theories should be taken into account while we analyze. But unfortunately, I had no much chances to discuss with him about many of the works we have been doing. But in his second volume, second revised edition, he quoted and also he took into account one of my articles that I wrote on the analysis of Hirosune inscriptions. Yeah, I think I have finished my PowerPoint. Yeah, this is very important. Unfortunately, we have not taken into account all this data pre-Sangam and also some of the Sangam data. And also we had, by the time when they reconstructed the Proto-Dravidian, Proto-Tamil, we had no any data from Tamil Brahmi inscriptions. So this is very important. And also really once again, I thank Dr. Airavata Mahadevan for his contribution. And also it was a very great boon to all of us. And thanks to the organizers.
Thank you, Professor Murugayan. We really appreciate your presentation.
I don't know whether my talk was clear because I was rushing to respect the time limit. And also it's very complicated because theoretically I cannot talk theoretically. That will take a few days to explain the theory,
Yeah.
but this is true.
Thank you anyway. Thank you very
Thank
much. And may I now invite Professor Kathy Morrison. Kathy Morrison is Professor of Anthropology from the University of Pennsylvania. May I now invite her?
Okay, I says that host has disabled screen sharing.
Yes, one moment.
Okay, screen sharing is still disabled, so I will just wait patiently. Ah,
One
okay.
moment. Yeah. Did you get that?
Let me try. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Oh, it's not on the right slide. Very strange. Okay. Yes, I will start then. Can everybody see my screen? Can you hear me? Okay, well, I don't get any response, so I'm going to assume that that is true. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's really a great honor to be here, and as someone who is amazed by the brilliant study of ancient languages, but doesn't know anything whatsoever about them, it's a real pleasure to be able to learn more and hear. Today, I thought I would tell you a little bit about a research project that I'm involved in together with many other scholars called South Indian Landscape Trajectories. And it's a project that is designed to study the past 5,000 years of landscape change in South India, especially in Karnataka and a little bit into northern Tamil Nadu. And we're very interested in specific kinds of transformations over the last 5,000 years, changes in farming, changes in the use of keeping of animals and the use of wild resources, plants and animals, in environmental issues like fire history and vegetation history, erosion and hydrology, and changes in biodiversity, both plants and animals. And of course, all of these environmental issues are also very deeply linked to humans. And as part of that, and as archaeologists, we're very interested in the history of settlement, of society, and devotion in South India. So this is a long and complicated project that's parts of it are, almost finished and parts of it are just starting. But basically we have multiple study areas, mostly in Karnataka, but one that goes just a little bit into northern Tamil Nadu. Today, I'm going to talk just about one of the archaeological sites that we've been working called Kadibakale, which is a British map making change of the actual name of the village, Kadibagalu. But we'll stick with Kadibakale since that's what's on the maps. A very important site called Brahmagiri, where you can see actually some of our team taking a sediment core from a reservoir, a tank at Brahmagiri to study past environment. And then also a small project that I won't talk about today, but I'd be happy to take questions about if anyone's interested in. And that's a collaboration with Dr. Ramya Bala Prabhakaran and on Mudumalai, looking at biodiversity change in Mudumalai Park in Tamil Nadu. Okay, so the excavations at Kadibakale that I'm going to talk about today were carried out in collaboration with the Karnataka State Directorate of Archaeology and Museums, now the Department of Archaeology, Museums and Heritage, and we thank them very much. We also hosted many, many students and worked with colleagues from all around the world And in particular, we'd like to thank some of our participants from NIOS in Bangalore, Delhi University, JNU, Tamil University, Deccan College, Karnataka University, a number of American institutions, and also very importantly, our colleagues in Kadibakale village itself. We excavated there for 5 seasons, and we're still actually working on the analysis phase. Archaeological research involves lots of fun times in the field and then years and years of analysis back at home. So we are studying the artifacts. So there's a range of things. I'll show you some photos today. We have pottery, metal, glass, beads, various kinds of stone tools. We have a dissertation student working on studying the animal bones. And we have a special focus on studying plant remains, because I'm very interested in farming, in food, and in the development of South Indian cuisines, and particularly the expansion of rice and rice-based cuisines in South India. So part of that work then takes place back at the lab in Pennsylvania. And you can see here one of my PhD students, Mariah McKenna, studying something called plant phytoliths, which is a very tiny, tiny little plant remain. So just trying to give you the sense that we have a huge amount of data, and the picture in the middle is part of the reason why we have so much information. And that is, we put all of the material that we excavate, all the soil, through screens. So everything is sieved, and that produces an amazing and very complete record of the past, because we recover all the tiny little bones and beads and things, but it also means a tremendous amount of work afterwards. This is of a kind of simplified South Indian chronology, just to give you a sense of the time periods that I'm talking about. And Kadibakale is an amazing site because it spans almost this entire range. The earliest deposits at Kadibakale date to the Neolithic, what's usually called the Southern Neolithic. And a large part of what we have worked on so far are deposits from the Iron Age. So that's about 1200 to 300 BCE. And very interesting period, and one that is linked to the previous talk, of course, are deposits from the early historic periods, starting around 300 BC and going into the early part of the first millennium. Unfortunately, we have not yet excavated very much of that. So this is a great site. It goes all the way up until very recent time periods. And in my own work, I've actually worked a lot more on these later time periods. So it's quite fun for me to get a chance to look at a more distant past. This is a Google Earth image of the big granite outcrop that contains the site of Kadibakale. And unfortunately, it doesn't look quite like this anymore because there's been a great expansion of paddy in the region. But you can see the Tungabhadra River coming along the southern edge there. And most of our excavations have taken place in this upper area, what we call the upper terrace. And you can see the map on the left that marks the upper terrace here, the middle terrace, and then the river terrace. The river terrace is where we have done the least amount of work and hope to do more in the future. So let me give you a kind of a very rough sense of the history of this site. It's a site that we found on our survey, the Vijayanagara Metropolitan Survey, back in the 80s or 90s, I think. It's very close to Anagundi. It's right in the Hampi region. And the Neolithic deposits, you can see the little yellow circle there, are pretty limited, and there may be more, but we're not sure. In the Iron Age, the site became quite large, and this is the area covered by Iron Age deposits. That's mostly what we have information on right now, these two things. But then the early historic period, people moved down from the top of the hill. They were living way up at the top of the hill, and then they moved down to the river terrace, where they continued to live throughout the medieval periods. And of course, people are still living there today. So let me just tell you a little bit about some of the material that we found. So starting up at the top of the hill, what we call the upper terrace, this is the time period in the Neolithic and Iron Age when people were living in a small village, or later on, say kind of a town. And we excavated in a number of different places. These are the little red boxes that you see on the screen. And we found many residential areas with floors, courtyards, structures, and pits. It gives a sense of sort of everyday life and how people are living in this rural setting, including what we call midden deposits. And I know this is not a archaeological audience necessarily. So midden is basically just trash deposits, but archaeologists love those because they're a great record of past food and artifacts. And then a series of megaliths, or what we're calling just ritual commemorative deposits, right? So the Iron Age is known for its megaliths, and this was a time period when people had very interesting kinds of ritual practices that precede the development of temples. So it's a period also when there is very little to almost to no historical data. So the archaeological data are really our only clue here. Here we are in 2010, back in the good old days, excavating up on an area we call Block B, way up on top of the hill there, the Karibakale upper terrace. And here you can see two students excavating a series of pits, Iron Age pits. Pits were often used for storage, or to get rid of trash, or to keep food through the dry season. So this was once, a town, and this is what the excavations look like. So starting at the very earliest time period at Karibakale is the Southern Neolithic. The Southern Neolithic is the time period when agriculture was first developed in South India. It starts around 3000 BC or so. It goes to about 1200. You can see a little chart on the bottom, sort of a timeline on the bottom. It's particularly noted for these amazing features known as ash mounds. Ash mounds are found throughout Karnataka, Andhra, into northern Tamil Nadu. And there you can see one here on the left. This is the Kudatini ash mound near Bellary. And there's a telephone pole right in front of it that can maybe give you a sense of the scale. What they are is kind of crazy, are these enormous mounds, or mountains really, of fired cattle dung. So in the Southern Neolithic, there was very extensive use of sheep, goat, and cattle especially. And people were already very, very interested and invested in their cattle. And you can see down on the lower right here, some rock art. There's a lovely bull just here, zebu bull. And the picture in the middle is highly significant, this bone. This is courtesy my student, Kelly Wilcox Black, who studied the animal bones from Karibakale. And what this is an arthritic acetabulum. That is, it's the kind of bone in I always think of like the ankle joint of the cow, probably a bullock in this case. And the arthritis of this bone shows that the cow or the bullock has been pulling a plow or pulling a cart or doing some other kind of hard physical labor like that. So what that means is that already from the very early days of agriculture, people were not only using cattle, but they were using them for what archaeologists often call secondary products. That is, things like milk and things like traction, pulling a plow and pulling a cart. So that's really, fantastic and interesting news. People were also in the Southern Neolithic growing a range of millets and pulses, and we have also studied those specifically. Artifacts from the Neolithic deposits are fairly limited because it's extremely deep. It's the oldest and lowest, so we didn't excavate a huge area of that. I just show you for a few of one of the prettier pieces, I think, from the Southern Neolithic. It's a lid with a little handle, very cute. And we find a lot of what are usually known as micaceous gray and pink wares, a kind of early black and red ware, and a few distinctive vessel forms, all handmade pottery. That's very distinctive of the Southern Neolithic. These are hard to look at if you're not archaeologists, so don't worry about it. But what the point I want to make here is that we have very, very many radiocarbon dates, C14 dates also from Karibakale. We're working on a publication about this right now. This is important because the getting precise dates on the archaeological material is expensive because radiocarbon dates cost a lot of money. And it takes a lot of work to analyze the dates and to link them very carefully to the archaeological material. But this is something that we're doing. And I show you here something called a Bayesian model of radiocarbon dates from Block B. And if you look at the red words, you can see that we had excavated some late Neolithic levels and then a whole lot of Iron Age levels. So what this shows is an area that's pretty continuously occupied from about a little before, a little after 2000 BCE, all the way up until the early, close to the BC AD boundary. Okay, so my point is, I guess, that we have extensive dates and we're really delighted that we're going to be able to give some temporal precision to some of this material. Okay, so that was the Iron Age. And now we're, the Neolithic. So now we talk a little bit, just really briefly, because I don't have much time, about the Iron Age. The Iron Age is this period you can see down here with the bar on the bottom between about 1200 and 300 BC, that is, okay. And the Iron Age Karibakale is quite fascinating. It's moved from probably a small village in the Neolithic to what I'm calling here a small town. So it's a small town way up on top of the hill. It's occupied by farmers and herders, but also, and this is new, by iron smelters and smiths, and it's clearly involved in extensive trade. You can see here from Gwen Kelly's PhD work, some of the bleached carnelian beads we find from Iron Age Karibakale. This is a megalith on the left that we find on top of the Karibakale hill. And again, some of the kinds of a big storage structure from the Iron Age. Okay. All right. The Block B, as I said, contains all kinds of storage structures and pits, courtyards, domestic deposits, very homely, you might say. Not surprising for something called the Iron Age. Iron artifacts are very plentiful, and these have been and are being studied by Dr. Sharada Srinivasan at NIOS in Bangalore. One interesting area, at least interesting to us, like I said, is a midden deposit. This is a kind of big pile of ancient trash, essentially. This is an Iron Age midden deposit. And some interesting things that we find in the Iron Age include a range of classical Iron Age types of ceramics, like polished redwares, polished blackwares, a very pretty type of ceramic called black and redware. So pretty much what you find throughout South India. It's quite characteristic. We also find in both the Neolithic and the Iron Age a whole range of stone tools. So even though people had iron in the Iron Age, they were also using stone tools. So they were using things like this hoe or axe right here on the upper right, groundstone, and these little groundstone discs, but also really quite beautiful flint blades and flakes, probably from material that came down in the Raichur Doab. There an interesting array of iron tools, including this kind of this projectile point here, sort of spearhead type things. Here's a cool little scoop sort of thing. And again, as I mentioned, even more than in the Neolithic, evidence of long distance trade. Here's a lapis lazuli bead. And so you may know that lapis lazuli is not local to South India. It probably came from as far away as Afghanistan. So for a small, not very central little town in North Karnataka, having, connections with Afghanistan is pretty interesting. I don't want to give you too much detail about the excavations just because, I don't know, maybe only archaeologists love those anyway. But I want to get to some of the analytical results. But we have another area, so that on the top of the outcrop called Block A, and here you can see, yes, me excavating while my local workers hang around and watch me working, which is often how it was. Okay, and this is an interesting area because it has a series of what you call mini megaliths, right? Very small megaliths. And I won't go into any great detail around these, but what I think is important about our work here is that we asked, not only we asked what happens outside of megaliths, what happens around them? What do people do with megaliths? And we excavated extremely carefully. And what you can see may not look too exciting to you, but this is glorious. Look at this. This is a floor, like a mud floor. So I'm sure you've all seen, you know, prepared mud and cow dung surfaces. And I should also point out that a lot of these floors were prepared with cow dung, just the same way that people do today. So we see these bits of prepared floors. We have evidence of sort of wattle and daub, or like thatched structures, sort of areas of burning and caches or little deposits of metal and animal parts. Like sometimes there's a goat mandible, a goat jaw with an iron tool in a kind of special little deposit. So these are really interesting kinds of, you know, glimpses of, you might say, religious or devotional practices from this very early age, and give us more of a sense of what happens around megaliths. So we don't have, as I mentioned, any script or text from this time period, but we do have, like many other parts, like all other Iron Age sites, probably in South India, a number of ceramics with what's usually called graffiti. I'm not sure graffiti is really the right word for these symbols. And you can see here's like a little sort of three-part thing here. Here's sort of a little checkerboard. A lot of scholars have worked on these and tried to connect them to some sort of, you know, proto-script. I'm absolutely not qualified to discuss that. But I think that these so-called graffiti sherds are interesting and important. And one day somebody's going to get to explain to you exactly, you know, what that means. In the Block A area, where we have these small megaliths, we also have some kinds of specialized ceramic forms that you often find in large megaliths. And these include things like this beautiful polished blackware lid with a little handle. You can see it's broken a bit at the top. Okay. All right. So let me just say something then about the animal bones from the Iron Age. This is really important because our excavations in Iron Age Karibakali were some of the very few in which the deposits were sieved or screened. So we found all kinds of small bones. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of an echo. It's a little distracting. Okay, so we knew that people kept a lot of cattle, and here you can see that 36% of the animal bones were cattle bones. And if you don't run your soil through a screen, can you hear me? There's a terrible echo. Okay, all right. Well, I'll just continue. But cattle bones, of course, are large. So if you don't screen your deposits, it's going to look like there's mostly cattle bones. But we did screen, and what we found is that Iron Age people, even though they had sheep and goats and cattle and lots of domestic animals and plants, were eating a huge array of wild animals, including snakes and lizards, turtles, fish, and birds. It's really, I think, quite important to see that about half of the contribution of the animal bones to the assemblage are not domesticated. Our special interest, my special interest really too then, is farming and food. And during the Iron Age, our analysis of the plant remains show that people grew a range of pulses and grains, mostly millets and different kinds of pulses. But it's important to note that we have no evidence in this period yet of any kind of rice. Okay. So rice seems to come in a little bit later here. Besides millets and pulses, we have an extraordinary record of Sisyphus or jujube, bear, right? And we have, if you can see, my son said this looked like a basket full of rocks. It's not a basket full of rocks. It's a basket full of charred Sisyphus, both seeds and entire fruits. You can see here, this is an entire little bear here, right, with the skin and everything. Why there were so many, what people were doing with these, besides eating them, of course, is something that we're continuing to work on. But that was obviously a really important part of the diet in the Iron Age. In a recent paper, we published some exciting new analysis of, again, something that doesn't look very exciting at first glance. And what these are charred food lumps. So when you make, let us say, a mistake in the kitchen, and if you're cooking over a fire, you may make a mistake. You're trying to cook in a pot over the fire, and your dough or your batter gets burned and it gets thrown away. So we identified two types of food lumps, including one that this one here on the lower left seems to be the batter of some kind of a pulse dough. And of course, you're all well aware, unlike some of my audiences, that so much of South Indian food is made out of, various kinds of pulses, right? So that a lot of things that you would make just at home in the kitchen have a kind of pulse-based batter. The other type of food lump, here's an example right here. And you can see actually these impressions of millet husks. That's what these are. We have a really great microscope and pen, and we identified the kind of little bits of millets, you might say, that are in these. And it matches the experimental evidence for a millet flatbread or roti, right? The publisher would not let us say roti. I don't know why. They let us say bread, but not roti. But in any case, these are not just ingredients, you might say, but real evidence of cooking in the Iron Age. So millet bread and pulse dough from the early Iron Age. This is in Journal of Archaeological Science that just came out just this year, quite recently. So I think that's really quite amazing. It shows some of the kinds of similarities of cooking strategies that we still see in South Indian food from so far back in the distance. Okay, very quickly then, here's the Karibakale Hill. And we were up on top of the hill in the Iron Age and the Neolithic. And if you remember then, in the early historic, a couple centuries BC, people moved down from the top of the hill and they live out here on the river terrace. Okay, we did very limited excavations on the river terrace. Here you can see Gwen Kelly, a student from Wisconsin, down in a deep hole here. We mostly cleaned up pits that were dug by farmers and tried to recover some information from them. Here's an early medieval temple down in that. So here we have early historic and early and late medieval deposits. Unfortunately, we were not able to excavate here as much as we wanted and are still hoping to get back if the Archaeological Survey of India will give us permission. On the river terrace here, as I said, we have artifacts from the early historic and early medieval. These kind of stripy looking pottery you see here on the right is something called russet coated painted ware. That is a classic pottery form of the early historic period. We also have, these are actually little pots turned upside down. So this is the base of the little bowl. And these are what are called string cut bases. They're made by a potter on a wheel. And as the pot comes up off the top of the hump of the clay, he or she uses a string to sort of swipe it off. So these are really characteristic of the early historic. And we also have some interesting types of pottery that are sort of early medieval pottery that's not been very well studied. There's a few other interesting things that you see on the river terrace from the early historic and early medieval. We start to see glass bangles. And for those of us who like to see connections between the past and the present, Millet roti is a nice thing. Pulse dough is a nice thing. Glass bangles are another. Some special types of pottery that came from far away. Roof tiles that suggested that people had different kinds of houses in that period with tiled roofs. The lower area here is now largely under paddy, which is nice for local folks, but it's very hard for archaeologists because it tends to destroy deposits. But in the Kadibakale Hill, this is still the Kadibakale Hill, continued to be used. And here you can see a Vijayanagara period, a late medieval wall. So it was used as a kind of fort in this later period. So we're very interested in the long-term history of the whole region. Here's some lovely Iron Age rock art from Kadibakale, a series of women sort of holding hands, maybe dancers. So where are we going next? We hope to go back to the river terrace and really study the early historic and medieval deposits, and particularly look at changes in farming and food. Hopefully, I think we're going to see the beginnings of rice agriculture and the development of rice-based diets. We did a little bit of excavation in a site of Brahmagiri in central Karnataka, and we're hoping to go back there. We'll continue our work at Mudamalai with Ramya, and there will be room for many student projects and student participations in the field on this new project as we continue. So I will say, just pass the word to anyone who might be interested. Thank you.
Hello. 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 Can you hear me, Professor Morrison?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Lovely presentation. And may I request you to hold on so that the next speaker can come and give his presentation. Will be Dr. Swaminathan, former Deputy Superintendent of ASI. May I request Dr. Swaminathan to talk for 15 minutes, please, as we are running short of time. 15 minutes. Can you hear me, sir?
Okay, I'm able to hear you.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes. Are you able to hear
Thank
me?
you, sir. Yes, sir. Please. Please go ahead. Your time starts now for 15 minutes, please.
Good evening, all. At the outset itself, I thank the organizers of the conference for giving me an opportunity to say something, a few words about my teacher, Airavata Mahadevan. At the outset itself, I caution that my web is not an academic. A few episodes or events connected Airavata Mahadevan, sir, when he was in Mysore from 1995 to 1996. Two scholars impressed me. They were scholars par excellence. Both of them were erudite in their The topic of my paper is my reminiscences of Padmasri Airavata Mahadevan. Is it audible? Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Two scholars really impressed me. They were scholars par excellence. Both of them were erudite in their chosen field and contributed a great deal to the history and culture of Tamil Nadu. Both were born in 1930, attended Vivekananda College, Mylapore, and resided in Chennai. They are Padmasri Airavata Mahadevan and Padma Bhushan Dr. R. Nagaswamy. Airavata Mahadevan, sir, apart from being a great scholar, was a perfect gentleman. He was scrupulous in his dealings and never took anything for granted. He was endowed with intellectual integrity. He had been visiting the epigraphy branch in Mysore since long. I met him for the first time in 1982 when he gave a talk on Tamil epigraphy on our office gallery. At that time, he was serving as a general manager of the famous newspaper Indian Express. The lecture was crisp and to the point. He asked the audience who was a specialist in Southern Brahmi and Vattaluttu among us, much to our embarrassment. In 1985, he attended the SAR conference at Mysore with his wife and granddaughter. He delivered a wonderful lecture on the decipherment of the Indian script, and the session was chaired by another Indian script specialist, S.R. Rao. It was an intellectual debate between the two great scholars. In 1988, he visited epigraphy branch at Mysore once again for the study of Tamil Brahmi inscriptions. The year 1995 was a watershed year for me. Airavata Mahadevan sir visited Mysore and stayed for a longer spell for his study and collections of the materials for his epoch-making work on Tamil epigraphy. During that period, I came under his influence. He stayed at a cottage called Dunyaloka, ran by the legendary English professor C.D. Narasimhaya of Mysore University, for scholars coming from other states and abroad, who involved in the study and research in different disciplines. Daily, Mahadevan sir attended our office from there, walking a distance of 3 kilometers. I met him almost every day, and on 2 occasions, he joined me at my house for dinner. I must recall here that on a few Sunday evenings, I joined him and Professor CDN for tea, and it was an intellectual treat to listen to their animated conversation in chaste and breezy English. The choice of the words and expression they used in the course of their conversation impressed me, and I listened to them with rapt attention. Mahadevan's stay at Mysore came as a shot in my arms, and I used to clarify all my doubts relating to Brahmi script with him. He even wrote the text of some of the Brahmi inscriptions in the same script on a paper. In that way, I have in possession several texts of the Tamil Brahmi inscriptions written by Airavata Mahadevan sir. He also explained the importance of those inscriptions. Mahadevan was not an armchair critic, but an indefatigable and sincere scholar. Apart from Tamil Brahmi, I learnt a lot of other things when I went along with him on tours. I went 3 tours with him in 1995 and 1996. The first field study was at Edakallu in Wayanadi district in Kerala to study the ancient inscriptions carved on the rock surfaces of the hill there. Our team included Mahadevan sir, our attender Siddharaju, and I. We had to go by bus to reach Wayanad, as several buses were plying between Gudalur, that is a town nearer to Mysore, to Wayanad. Hence, we have decided to reach Gudalur and from there to take another bus to Wayanad. On that particular day, no buses were seen, and we waited for more than an hour at Gudalur bus stand. At last, IM engaged a taxi and we reached Wayanad, where we were accommodated in a government guest house. Next morning, we went to the famous Edakal cave, accompanied by Professor Raghavarya, Rajan Gurukal, A. Sitaraman, and the dynamic collector of the Wayanad district, Mr. Vishwas Mehta, IAS. We reached the spot after a strenuous climb in the steep hills. The cave was big enough, resembling a big mandapa. The walls of the caves containing many drawings of prehistoric times and also several ancient Tamil Brahmi and Grantha inscriptions. On the north and southern side, Mahadevan meticulously examined each and every item. While we were exploring the cave, I stumbled upon 2 inscriptions on the north wall of the rock dated to 2nd, 3rd century AD, hitherto not noticed or copied, and they read Upanapa Veera and the second one Kadimi Putta Chera. Mahadevan's joy knew no bounds, and he was in a state of ecstasy and congratulated me repeatedly on this discovery. It was a chance discovery, and anybody could have noticed these ancient records, and it fell to my lot, for which I did not deserve any kudos. Mahadevan took notes on these records carefully. Needless to say, I got these records copied by my attendants. Hello? அப்படியா? We are trying.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, Dr. Swaminathan, could you hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Are you able
Yeah,
to
now yeah, please go ahead. Your audio is.
Mahadevan sir was not an armchair critic, but an indefatigable and sincere scholar. Apart from Tamil Brahmi, I learned a lot of other things when I went along with him on tours. I went 3 tours with him in 1995-1996. The field study was Idakkalai in Wayanad district in Kerala to study the ancient inscriptions carved on the rock surfaces of the hill there. Our team included Mahadevan, our attendant Siddharaju and I. We had to go by bus to reach Wayanad, and as several buses were playing between Gudalur, a town nearer to Mysore, to Wayanad, hence we decided to reach Gudalur and from there to take another bus to Wayanad. On that particular day, no buses were seen and we waited for more than an hour at Gudalur bus stand. At long last, Mahadevan engaged a taxi and we reached Wayanad, where we were accommodated in guest house. So, next morning, we went to the famous Edakkal cave, accompanied by Professor Raghavarya, Rajan Gurukal, Sita Raman, and dynamic collector of Wayanad district, Mr. Vishwas Mehta, IAS. We reached the spot after a strenuous climb in the steep hills. The cave was big enough, resembling a big mandapa. The walls of the cave contained many drawings of prehistoric times and also several ancient Tamil, Brahmi, and Gandha inscriptions on the north and south side. I am meticulously examined each and every item. While we were exploring the cave, I stumbled upon 2 inscriptions on the north wall of the rock dated to 2nd, 3rd century AD, hitherto not noticed, and they are Tamil Brahmi inscriptions. Mahadevan's joy knew no bounds, and he was in a state of ecstasy and congratulated me repeatedly. My second tour with Mahadevan sir was to visit a hamlet, Tamattakallu, situated on the outskirts of the town Chitradurga in northern Karnataka in February 1996. We went to Chitradurga by bus, and on reaching there, we were accommodated in a lodge. Next day morning, accompanied by Professor B. Rajashekharappa, a local researcher, we went to the village, which is 7 kilometers from Chitradurga, where a big stone containing an inscription written in Kannada script and Sanskrit language of 6th century has been laying there. On the top of the right corner of the stone, we noticed a small inscription of three lines, and our attendant copied this inscription written in Tamil language in vertical characters of the 6th century AD. After we returned to the lodge, Mahadevan sir dwelt at length on the cultural links between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu and informed me that soon after his selection into IAS, he wanted to opt for the Karnataka cadre but could not do so because of some constraints. Mahadevan sir discussed the cultural links between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu and suggested me and Professor Rajashekharappa that Siddhanavasal Brahmi record should be studied in the light of the Tamattakallu Tamil inscription and vice versa. Here I am interested in narrating one incident. As said earlier, we went to Wayanad by bus. From Mysore, we reached Gudalur and waited there at bus stand to board the bus bound for Wayanad. But the bus did not come for a long time. To beat the heat, I.M. sir went inside a nearby tea stall and sat on the bench and keenly observed what was going on and how the cooks prepared the ragi mudde, a special cuisine of Karnataka. I was amazed at his keen observation. Then, while returning, we had to come by bus. As we boarded the bus back to Mysore in the peak morning hours, there was a heavy rush and we had to stand throughout the journey. But I.M. sir did not mind that and befriended fellow passengers who were college students, and he cut jokes and commented on the English novels they carried. He did not assume any airs, and he was really a down-to-earth person. Once again, we made a trip to Kerala. This time, I.M. Mahadevan sir wanted to study the archaic inscriptions in a hamlet called Idupikkallu, which is situated near the town Nilambur in Calicut district. Mahadevan brought his white Maruti car this time. The office attendant D. Nagesha and I went to Calicut from Mysore in his car. There, Professor M.G.S. Narayanan met us and played host. On his request, Mahadevan gave a thrilling talk on the Indus script to the students and staff of the history department there. Next day, Professor Warrior made arrangements for our trip to the hamlet. He arranged a jeep for us for our journey to the spot, and a forest person accompanied us with a gun. To reach Idupikkallu, one has to go to Nilambur near Calicut, and from there one has to pass through some 8 kilometers inside a thick forest infested with wild elephants and tigers. Deep inside the forest, a river is running, and a rock boulder and a rock boulder is perched on the said river containing the above said inscription. It is important inscription in the characters of the 6th century AD, which shows the traces of the evaluation of Mariadam, and the boulder is situated amidst the running river and is somewhat risky to copy it. But would not, but Mahadevan Sir would be a last person to be cowed down. The full inscription is visible only in summer when the water level is low. Even then, we had to get down into the river if we wanted to copy it. Professor M.G.S. Narayanan, Professor R. Raghavarian, and Alan, a student who was doing research in an American university, joined our team. When we reached the spot, Professor Narayanan wanted to stay back as he did not want to venture into the river. We were discussing as to how to go about it, but Mahadevan Sir got into the river first, followed by me, and then by my attendant Dina Gesha. We got into our business in right earnest. We were frightened on hearing the growl of a tiger nearby. As the river was in full flow, only the upper portion of the record could be copied, leaving the lower portion uncopied, much to the disappointment and frustration of Mahadevan Sir. Mahadevan was a sound scholar and a perfectionist. He did not take anything for granted before being critically examined. He became a quiet explorer of South Indian landscape in searching for inscriptions. He narrated an instance to me. Once, to verify whether a letter is a pure consonant or not, he had to visit the spot. He was keen to know the particular letter had dot, that is pulli, on its head or not. The inscription is found on the top of a boulder. I have forgotten the name of the hamlet, and the boulder which was in inaccessible height, and Mahadevan Sir had to seek the help of a fire brigade person to get the record examined and recopied. He also informed me that he spent 10,000 rupees in this venture. This was not a hit or misreading of inscription and insisted on pinpoint accuracy. Once he had forgotten to bring chalk pieces to a spot to trace the letters of an archaic inscription engraved there, and in utter frustration he blamed himself that he deserved to be whipped for his negligence. IM's dating of the Tamil Brahmi inscriptions are more reasonable, fair, and correct. He was not carried away by any fantasy or preconceived notion or bias. He applied the rules of linguistics and determined by personal analysis what might have been grammatical forms. As in all his works, his essentially rational approach was impressive. Unlike the modern scholars who pushed the dates of the early Tamil Brahmi records to 6th or 7th century BC, he was always cautious and gave evidences for saying so. Mahadevan took voluntary retirement in 1981 from IAS, much ahead of his regular retirement in 1988. Mahadevan took voluntary retirement in 1981, much ahead of his regular retirement in 1988. In some ways, he continued the earlier tradition of some of the administrative scholars of the 19th, 20th centuries. He belonged to the genre of Vincent Smith, John Fleet, Louis Rice, and other bureaucrats come scholars. At the time of retirement, he was holding the prestigious position of Industry Secretary, a post given to him by the then Chief Minister MGR, who was unhappy with his decision of seeking voluntary retirement. Power and wealth sat lightly on him. Once Madhavan Katti, a chief epigraphist of my office, had to cut a sorry face when he advised Mahadevan Sir not to mingle with an assistant like me, as Mahadevan's status as an IAS officer does not befit such an occasion. Back came the reply from Mahadevan, who retorted that IAS officers do not have any extraordinary horns on their heads to assume as, and he continued to move with me, much to the chagrin of Katti. My interest in Tamil Brahmi studies took shape only after I came under the spell of Mahadevan's. He often advised me to learn Sanskrit and more often admonished me for not learning the language. He was of the opinion for an epigraphist a sound knowledge of Sanskrit is a must. He recollected his abiding interest in Sanskrit and narrated an incident. When a boy of 14, he composed a poem in Sanskrit and recited it before the great conchiseer who appreciated him. He used to read Sanskrit books frequently, and once his father rebuked him for reading Sanskrit on the eve of his university examinations in chemistry. Again, his knowledge of Tamil, its literature, and linguistics were really amazing. He joined Annamalai University and did a course in linguistics under the guidance of a great linguistics scholar, B.C.H. Krishnamurti. He believed for studying Indus script as well as for Tamil Brahmi inscription, one must know linguistics very well. He narrated with pride and admiration his meeting with the legendary epigraphist K.V. Subramanian at his residence in Coimbatore. He often cautioned me not to venture to write anything before thoroughly studied all the relevant literature. That was the greatness of Mahadevan sir, and it is impossible to replace a scholar of his caliber. Thank you. Hello?
Thank you very much, Dr. Swaminathan, for the excellent presentation and remembering fondly Dr. Airada Mahadevan, Sri Airada Mahadevan. And today, I think Dr. Sundar has just gone for attending some immediate administrative work. So this session, we had three excellent papers. One was by Apashwami Murugayan on historical linguistics. And second one by Catherine D. Morrison of this Kadapurike from Karnataka side. And finally, we had a third paper from S. Swaminathan. And we do hope that all the delegates and scholars and students who assembled here would enjoy these papers. And we thank you one and all for the presentation. And of course, Dr. Catherine and also Dr. Murugayan and Dr. Swaminathan, we want to make a memento presentation to you, but of course we are all in the virtually, but of course we will send you by post to your address all your members. Thank you very much for coming over here. Thank you very much once again for on behalf of Tamil Nadu State Archaeology Department. Thank you. We are concluding the session. Tomorrow by 10 o'clock we are meeting again with the Dr. Dayalan will be chairing the first session of tomorrow. Thank you very much.